Hey guys, welcome back to the Bad Dating Podcast. This is episode 4. My name is Michael James. I know bad dating, so let's talk about it. So, on my feed, what happened was I saw a clip from a couple months ago that came up that I wanted to just watch and review and kind of just talk about it. I'm not going to show the clip in its entirety just because I don't want to get flagged. Plus, I'm still new to the YouTube game, so I'm just trying to figure this out. But I'm going to play, react to it, and then just kind of talk and deep dive a little bit about it. So what I want you to do first, before we talk about the clip, is on emotional intelligence and what some women aren't really expecting when they're dealing with emotionally intelligent man. So that's going to be controversial, I know. So what I want you to do before we get into this, follow me on YouTube, Bad Dating Podcast, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, Bad Dating Podcast. So let's jump into it.
Women are seriously ready for emotionally intelligent men.
Kitty, what do you think?
Okay, let's talk about what emotional intelligence comes with before we even get into this conversation, okay? We're talking about you wanting a man.
So yeah, I'm just pausing to make sure that we talk about it because I'm just not trying to get flagged. But yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. So I kind of agree with this clip, and that's why we're just going to go see it because I did make sure to take the time to watch it. So.
Man who is tolerant, who regulates his emotions, who also knows how to manage your emotions. But you're also talking about a man who knows how to navigate his sensitivities and everything else when it comes to that.
Yep. Definitely, I agree. For regulating your emotions, people kind of underestimate that. They think that that's something that's easy to do, and that actually just takes a lot of experience. You just get used to dealing and being able to process and talk with your emotions, talk about your emotions and stuff. But yeah, let's continue with that.
But you have to consider that an emotionally intelligent man is good at cutting people off when he sees that your sensitivities bring too much reactivity.
So, definitely agree with that. So I have cut people off, of course, just because one of the things is if they start bringing drama, I've seen people who every 2 weeks there's new drama. It could be, you could say, hey, good morning, have a good day. What are you doing? You could talk about the positive things going on with yourself and your day and inquiring about their day. And that will start becoming drama for them out of nowhere. And that's one of those things that you kind of don't expect until you're just kind of in it. And for me, I'm big on trying to talk and communicate, but sometimes you find that you can't communicate with that person. They're going to go react, you're going to deal with it, and then a couple of weeks later, they're going to apologize and, try to shoot them some bail, but sometimes you just can't deal with that. But yeah, I've cut people off and people get mad. I've heard that that's gaslighting to cut people off, because gaslighting is that word that people love to use now, but they use it incorrectly. So as long as you're not making cutting someone off a threat, it's fine. You would cut off someone who's toxic or who's doing things that are causing you issues. So I definitely don't see anything wrong with that.
He sees that you cannot regulate your emotions. When he sees that you have a low tolerance, this type of man that you are asking for is a man who will walk you out the door in a heartbeat.
And so this is, and I didn't think I said this is the Ace Metaphor podcast. And again, I'm really vibing what they're saying and stuff, just because, yeah, if you had to think about this in terms of what you would want for yourself, if you were not in a relationship, if you were just dealing with something on your own, you would not be okay with someone bringing drama to your door. If I just said, hey, would you be okay with every 2 weeks, every week, or out of nowhere, because of what someone feels, they feel that they're entitled to cause drama, cause chaos, cause turbulence to your day, you wouldn't be okay with that. We make allowances when you fall for someone, when you start laughing, when you have good times. It is very easy to make allowances. I know I have done that, but especially if I can't talk with someone, if I can't try to bring that up. And so that's the thing too, is people who can't regulate their emotions are going to absolutely hate if you bring up anything of the past. It could have been like yesterday. It could have been about a week ago. They're going to be like, that's in the past, or I forgot. or for some people sketch are so sketch that they delete their text messages from any time that there's drama that they cause, and they're like they have no clue what you're talking about. It's just like, wow, where's the accountability for that if I can't just show you like what were you dealing with or what was going on? Because hey, maybe it was me, maybe did I say something that triggered you? You should want to know. And sometimes they just like blank everything out, and that can be like a trauma response. Yeah, that stuff's wild. Yep.
When he sees that you cannot regulate your emotions, when he sees that you have a low tolerance, this type of man that you are asking for is a man who will walk you out the door in a heartbeat. If he feels like you are level of disrespect, because there's a lot that comes with emotional intelligence. So
Yep.
if you asking for that, you got to come with the same level of emotional intelligence as well. Okay? That comes with a number of factors. So if you are a woman who knows that even though you may be sensitive to certain things like criticism, rejection, because you're not always going to be accepted, sometimes he's going to.
So a lot of women I've learned can't take rejection. The word no is not something some women hear regularly. I think we call it pretty privilege when someone's not used to getting their way. So sometimes people ask questions. Sometimes people are used to being able to kind of like steamroll and bulldoze guys, because guys, hey, I get it. Pretty girl's talking to you. You didn't think you're interested. You think you should do some of the things just to appease her. So that tends to happen. But what happens later on is sometimes people get used to not being able to hear the word no. So if someone asks you a question that you don't feel comfortable with answering, especially if they're a stranger, I've been asked super personal stuff where it's just like going into past relationships or whatever. If we are just barely talking, first off, I don't know your phone number, that says a lot. So it is okay to understand those boundaries and say no, and just be okay with that. And if anyone's not okay with you saying no, that should be a red flag. And this applies, ladies, this applies to you too in dealing with guys, where if you can't just tell someone no, and that's the thing is, the word no should be a full-throated response of no. If you start explaining, that leads to talking about things. If you don't want to do something, just say no. And if they ask for an explanation, of course, you can choose to give it to them if you want to or not. But what happens is sometimes people present excuses that seem weak. And what that can do is lead people to like, oh, well, I have an answer for that. Oh, well, my car, if you said, I can't get to the store. Someone said, okay, well, you can Uber, you could walk, I can give you a ride. A fixer will try to help you overcome those challenges. So when it comes to dating, if there's something you don't want to do, it is 100% okay to just say no and be comfortable with just leaving it at that. If someone wants to ask, that's fine. But I feel like a lot of people get in the habit of wanting to preemptively explain, and that just creates more confusion. I've talked to someone who they were always trying to over explain things to the point where it's just like, yeah, hey, you didn't need to do any of that. You just needed to, if you're not interested, you're not interested in whatever, and that's not a big deal. But we get into a long argument, discussion, whatever you want to say, just because they were just going too much detail that wasn't necessary.
Bounce back. And sometimes he's going to say, I don't agree with your opinion. Sometimes he's going to say, I don't like those thoughts. Sometimes he's going to say, I don't like the way you speak to me. If you're not ready for that, don't be asking for an intelligent man.
Yeah. So that's one of those things that we need to talk about. Yes, I've had so many people attempt to try to speak to me in a way that's just like wildly disrespectful. I feel like sometimes. So one of the lessons that a lot of guys learn when going to school is, hey, you have to be responsible for what you say. Why? because you can cause a fight and you can get punched in the face if you cause a fight with another guy at any point in your time. So maybe this wasn't a lesson you learned in elementary school. Maybe it's not a lesson you learned in middle school. Maybe it's not a lesson you learned in high school. Maybe it took you to get to college before you realize, hey, I'm saying things that can cause issue for me and get me punched in the face. Those were one of the lessons that a lot of guys tend to learn. And I feel like a lot of women don't necessarily go through that same thing. So what will happen is you can get catty and you can get comfortable saying negative things to people that there is no reason to say. Like, if you're not willing to fight someone, you shouldn't be comfortable talking mess to them, just talking shit to them, frankly. So one of the reasons why this clip really resonated with me was because I had talked with someone who always loved to take jabs and take shots. I've talked to a couple people who love to do that, unfortunately, where anytime there was the opportunity to grind it in and just kind of like take a little jab, they would. So this was like many years ago. I had taken someone, I bought tickets to the Cat Williams show. I asked them. They said yes, but they also let me know that they didn't like Cat Williams. I said, hey, you don't have to go. They still decide to go. And then every time later in the future that they want to, they would just, even when we were just friends, they'd love to just kind of remind and just jab that in as like, oh, well, I went to that show that I didn't like and everything else. And it's just like, why are you bringing that up? That like has no bearing 5 years or 8 years later. That has no bearing. And I'm going to do an episode. There's a movement and there's been a counter movement on Facebook. So unfortunately these days there's some girls who are posting guys. I've been posted on these Facebook dating groups where they're reviewing and trying to get gossip. And then what will happen is some girls will respond. And originally it was kind of in response to, I guess, I don't know if it was the documentary or just Caleb from West Elm. So it was this guy who was literally hitting up a bunch of girls and giving them the same lines, giving them the same stuff. And he was Caleb from West Elm, the furniture store. And it became this big thing, this big documentary, and just kind of like spiraled out of control. So what happened was a lot of girls I'm not going to probably get all the details right, but girls started a group. Are we dating the same guy? What would then happen was they started posting guys to like, hey, catch someone with red flags. In theory, this group is perfect because if someone is cheating, lying, or trying to harm women, that guy should not be doing that. Then what happened is it started just posting guys for like, hey, do you have tea on this? Instead of girls trying to get to know someone, they post to say like, hey, well, I was on this app and I met this guy. Hey, is anyone else talking to him? And then because it's apps and if you're not seeing someone in the actual relationship, people are seeing him. And then you start getting half stories and stuff. So I've been posted. I'm still going to do an episode on reading some of my posts because some of the stories are crazy because things got left out. And then when I found out, I'm just like, oh, cool. First, I had some defenders. I was like, oh my God, hey, this person I used to work with jumped in. This person I used to date a long time ago jumped in. This person I dated like months ago jumped in, defended me. I was just like, oh my God. I would message them if I wasn't positive and get back, because again, it's supposedly like a secret group, but everyone knows. And also, ladies, if you post on there or if you DM someone from there, realize it is not secret. So every time I've been posted, I would say I probably get 4 different people telling me that I'm posted in the groups. The group supposedly says no screenshotting, no sharing, no anything else. And then guess what? People screenshot, share, like various people. So going to the emotional maturity and back to the emotional intelligence, So one of the things that happened when I've been posted was talk about, yeah, that I've cut people off. Yep, 100% cut people off. Because if someone's doing wild stuff or saying wild stuff, would you not cut them off? Would you just allow them to forever say wild stuff about like, hey, well this, or keep bringing up the Cat Williams show? So it's funny, that person who I posted from the Cat Williams, who I was friends with about the Cat Williams show, posted me later on because I went back and I apologized. They had just broke up with their fiance, moved back to San Diego. We were still talking as friends. I had apologized, continued talking with them. And then they threatened me on Facebook saying like, oh, if I delete messages. And I'm big on, don't make threats. That's the stupidest thing you can do. And also I'm a habitual line stepper. So I'm going to just be like, oh, don't. So I did it. I got blocked. Not a big deal. Years later, this year, like thought about them. So like, okay, cool. Let me apologize. So I reached out. I was like, this person always likes to say wild stuff. You know what? Let me use my second phone, send them a quick couple text messages, and block them. Because they kind of already started going off on like saying things that were wild. And I just was like, you know what? At least I feel better because, you know, I said I'm sorry for what had happened. Guess what? They posted me. And then I had several people tell me. I had a person who reached out who was always into saying and jabbing stuff because they had gotten blocked. I had stopped talking with them because they love to go through drama and create drama every 2 to 3 weeks. And I was just not with that. And they brought that up. Oh, you got posted. And then it's like, okay, cool. Hey, what did they say? And they're like, I can't tell you. Okay, you told me. They sent me a screenshot, but they obscured things. They didn't want to say it. And it's just like, cool. So you're not going to answer any of my questions? Like, no. And you're not going to tell me? It's like, no. So then why are you reaching out? Well, I just thought you had hurt a lot of people. I was like, hurt? Wait, what had been said? Because I'm big on just being direct. Not everyone likes that. I'm not trying to play games, not trying to lie, you don't have to do any of that stuff just to like date, especially if you're looking for trying to date with intention. Just say what you want. And then if something's not working, have that happen too. And I was just like, well, first I just been in the dating pool again for about 2 months. I was like, wow, I'm hurting people. And they'd said that, and they just kept just saying more and more stuff. So I eventually had to block them so they would stop. And then 2 other people shared to me what was said. And I was just like, yeah, see, I wasn't hurting anyone or whatever. It was, hey, yeah, this person was mad that you had messaged them to apologize. Cool. Thanks. So it's like embarrassing to get posted. But I've already been posted twice by one girl. It was wild. Yeah. But again, I will do probably a short on that and stuff just because that way people can see the posts and stuff because I think it's funny. Don't worry, I will make sure to edit and obscure so it's not sharing those people's information and stuff because I didn't like that's been done to me. So why would I do it to someone else? But one big thing is I'm big on accountability, and I was just like, wow, it's interesting that people are saying some of this stuff, but they left out the parts that made them look bad, or they left out the parts that the stuff where I did things that was like, okay, cool. So that is what that is. So that's why this episode of this ACE podcast stood out to me. It was just because it was like, wow, am I messing people over? I was like, no, I didn't. I would think that me not wanting to answer questions to a stranger, but explicitly telling them and not just cutting them off but like it kind of established why something's personal, I thought that was okay. And it is okay. It's just kind of being emotionally mature enough to know that, like, hey, I'm not going to tell a stranger that I meet on a dating app, sorry, everything they want to know. I put in my profile specifically, hey, I am not an open book. I am not a library book, because some of you guys are just damaging pages and you owe charges at your local library. Some people ask, some people don't, but I've tried to be as clear as possible. And I think that's the way you should date, is to be as clear as possible with what your intentions are. So that way there's no misunderstanding. If you don't want to talk about something, you don't entitled to tell anyone that if you're not actually dating, in a relationship with, if you haven't kissed them, if you don't know their last name, you kind of don't really owe anyone that much respect. Be polite. Those are the bare minimums, but like, hey, oh, I don't have to tell you where I live. I don't have to tell you where I go to the gym. I don't have to tell you what my dinner was last night. Yeah, that'll also be another conversation when it comes to just some people ask questions just to make conversation, because apparently it's quantity over quality for them, and that's not for me. If you start asking, for me, that's where my boundaries were. I was raised with privacy. I locked my doors. I wasn't forced to answer every single aspect. I wasn't like interrogated growing up and stuff. So like, hey, it feels weird to get interrogated. And you know this, if that's not what you're used to, we're just like, wait, am I in trouble? Like, no, I don't want to answer that. And if someone has a problem with that, it says a lot about them. If you like, again, if you are dating someone, you should give someone the respect of answering like, hey, you should know, they should be aware of like, are you dating someone else? Of course, you have those sorts of conversations. But if you are on a first date with someone, yeah, it is great to get to know someone, but that does not give someone an excuse to just be able to ask whatever they want. People get into that weird habit where they just think, well, you know, I want to save time, or I really want to know. I'm just curious. And they think that is an excuse to just ask whatever questions they want. And on that method, on that idea, I saw in a post relating to those dating groups, review sites, where it's just like girls are paying $25 a pop to do a background check on guys. I'm like, why? And I found out one girl who had reposted said like, well, you know, if someone has a criminal record, I would want to know about that. I was like, okay. So that's all you're screening for? There's nothing else? It's like, no, but you know, just as a single mom. And I get that. Do the things that you have to do to be safe. But I've said this before, I feel like people make online dating a weird thing where they do everything completely different than what they would normally do. So in real life, you meet someone, you talk to them. If someone's like comes up and you have a fun interaction stuff, you may give them your phone number. I do not see someone at the gym. Well, first, I don't really talk to a man at the gym. Okay, I don't see anybody at Sprouts, see their picture, start trying to talk about them, do all this other research before I even talk with them, especially in person. So like people get weird and have like this weird disconnect where they make online dating like a bigger deal than what it is. Online, and I've said this before, use online dating as a tool to meet someone and save yourself some time and some wasted effort when it comes to getting to know someone. That's like, hey, are they even remotely interested? Oh, they are? That's fantastic. Now you can just get to the, hey, let's talk, let's meet, let's do these things and try to see if there's a connection there to establish more. People kind of forget that and they just want to do that checklist dating, and checklists work for Amazon. It works for grocery shopping. People, trust me, the second they can just have an app that can just do a checklist and say, this is what someone's into, and this is what someone likes, and you may just like the dating industry would have a huge boom and then go out of business just because, hey, it would work perfectly and everyone would be booed up or find whatever they're looking for. And that's why understanding your comfortability is important and being able to accept that. And so sometimes people aren't comfortable with someone being emotionally intelligent. If you have a understanding of your emotions, if you know what makes you mad or what makes you sad, if you can talk about these and share these things and then avoid easy to spot triggers where it's just like, hey, you don't like if someone goes out on the weekends without asking if you're free. Before they say they're going out on the weekend, you should speak up. Guy, girl, it really doesn't matter. It should just be, hey, the person who's going to have a problem should probably say that they are going to have a problem before it's a problem. Just, it's very easy to avoid issues if you just kind of spot the issues coming by saying like, yeah, hey, last person did me wrong this way. Just, hey, are you free on Saturday? If the person's free on Saturday, they can say yes. Guys, don't be afraid to ask. I mean, that's kind of been the game since for forever. But ladies, you should be able to ask a guy too. If you stand on tradition, that's great for when it works out well in your favor. But being able to just communicate what you want or what you're okay with, or then just being able to, before it becomes a problem, before you get triggered, talk about things. Or when you're triggered, just say, hey, I'm kind of like, just need to take maybe it's a moment, maybe it's a day, maybe it's a week, but as long as you express, hey, can we talk about this at a later point, and then actually talk about it, and then just cover the issues that you are feeling. Maybe it's completely fine, but you have to understand the other person does not know what you're feeling. And so that's kind of just takes that empathy and understanding that like, hey, it's not about what you feel all the time, because some people feel every emotion. And that's a very interesting experience. But then sometimes it makes you feel like your emotions aren't even remotely considered just because we're always dealing with that person's emotions. So here are the top 3 tips for emotional intelligence. First, number 1, self-awareness and empathy. That is required if you are dating, if you want to deal with someone and consider yourself or them emotionally intelligent. Number 2, managing your emotional responses. You shouldn't be flying into a rage over simple things. And if you're mad, you may be the one with the issue. And number 3, stay positive. It is just that simple. Stay positive. Be upbeat about what you're dealing with, because that's going to serve you well. So when it comes to emotional intelligence, it's a minefield. I wish I just had an answer to like, hey, this is how you can become emotional intelligent. For me, I think experience and trying to improve, become more self-aware has been the biggest tool for me to kind of get to the point where it's just like, hey, I don't just react. And also, that's never been me to just react and just be very emotional and stuff. So it's been a little bit easier for me to just get to the point where I can say, hey, instead of making a joke where I feel offended or I feel like someone's kind of attacking me, or I'm, instead of being sarcastic, to just be able to say, hey, I'm feeling this because of this, and just be able to say that and leave it and let the other person respond. That takes time. That wasn't easy, but then I've learned like, oh, hey, sometimes my sarcasm triggers the other person, or they don't understand, they take it the wrong way. But like, if I just say exactly what the problem is, it gives someone an easy way of like, oh, that's reasonable, that's understandable. They can work with that. They can deal with that. But if you just kind of skip to frustration and anger, oh, that is stressful. So yeah, hopefully emotionally intelligent and growth is on the path for everyone here, because trust me, if you are not emotionally intelligent, that's fine. Some people, two people who are unemotionally intelligent do just fine together, but then you can't handle some of the issues that come up, or you're just along for the ride. If you're emotionally intelligent, you can maybe just see like, hey, this is going to be an issue. We don't have to have it be an issue and try to divert it. But again, I'm emotionally intelligent and I'm single, and I know telling people who are not aware and they're happy-ish will say, I don't know if they're happy. I assume they're happy just from the outside. Again, I know a lot of people who get into long-term relationships, break up, and then you see those posts on Facebook where it's just like, oh, hey, they go away for a little bit and it turns out they're single. And especially those people slide into DMs. If you're going to, first off, if you slide into DMs, please, 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 always be respectful. I've had people try to slide into my DMs after being shitty. And I remember that. Like, yeah, I remember that. And I'll be polite, but I'll just be like, there's a good meme from the first Black Panther where it's Killmonger. And he's like, is this your king? And as he's pointing to T'Challa in the water, who just got his butt whooped. And like, yeah, I've sent that meme out because I think that's hilarious. Because just like, yeah, you need to be respectful, because I'll always be polite, but you got another thing coming if you're going to just come around and act a fool with me. But anyways, I want to thank you guys for bearing with me as we reviewed this video and talked a little bit about emotional intelligence. I'm curious, what have you encountered when dealing with people who maybe couldn't regulate their emotions, or maybe couldn't handle you regulating your emotions? Please feel free to post comments. I'm trying to be active on the different platforms and respond to feedback. And then take the time to follow us on YouTube, again, Bad Dating Podcast, Twitter, Bad Dating Podcast, and Instagram, Bad Dating Podcast. And you guys just, try to have a good one. Try to be good with dating. And if you can't be good with dating, at least try to be bad with dating.